Yeah. So welcome to the presentation, Real World Mobile Game Design. So I've been working in the games industry now for 5 years. The last 2 of those have been at Sumea. Sumea is a mobile Java games development company owned by Digital Chocolate. Digital Chocolate publishes Sumea's games in over 50 countries. In this presentation, I'll first go through some basics, what are mobile games, what is games design, and then I'll be going through 3 separate projects and taking few design challenges from all of those. And I'm sure they'll show rather well how the evolution, even in 2 years, has went forward in mobile games and how the design techniques and development techniques have been evolving at Sumea. Mobile games. By definition, you could say that mobile games are interactive entertainment software in a mobile phone. Mobile games have went quite far from Snake. I'd be surprised if there's someone in the audience who actually doesn't use mobile phone daily. And if you've been using your mobile phone, it most likely has got some kind of entertainment application in it. Anyhow, the black and white line chasing dots on screen is a thing of past. Nowadays, mobile games might have 3D elements, communities, or even uploadable content. But from a developer point of view, mobile games have lots of unique challenges. As you can see from the screens there, they are all the same scene from the same game. The thing that makes mobile phones unique is the flexibility of the platform. The screen on the left is from a so-called low-end game, where the resolution is low, where the game has to be at maximum 64 kilobytes big. And the screen on the left is actually from the so-called high-end set, where the resolution is at least twice as much. That's like 208 by 176. And the package size for the actual game can be more than 200 kilobytes. And what does a designer do? Well, aside from mixing animals and objects and getting monkey balls, like the designers at Sega have done, you could also say that designer's job description is knowing the language of games. What makes games fun? Why do some people find certain aspects of games interesting, entertaining, and why some points of games can be considered tedious? It's also about knowing the history of games beyond video games. Why have people enjoyed chess and sports and so forth? Designer's place in a development team is one of communication. It's very hard to pinpoint beforehand, be as it may, a few months, as it may be for a mobile phone, or for years, as it has been, for example, in Frozen Byte's case. It's very hard to pinpoint beforehand how the game exactly will play. Well, there should be a design vision, and it's the day-to-day job of the designer in a team to keep sure that the gameplay is working towards that vision. For the first game case, we'll be having Mafia Wars, a game that was developed in 2003. It was a tactical action game with story elements, a rather ambitious title. The development team size was 5, and actually there were 3 separate designers working on rotation, because the duration of this game was 8 months, which is very long for a mobile game. Let's have a look how the game turned out in those 8 months. And fitting to the theme, this video is silent. A bit less flashy than the final trailers from previous guys. Anyhow. The concept. For me, design can be said to be 3 different areas. In the areas, I mean that a single designer might not actually work in all the areas in a single project. The areas are concept design, gameplay design, and content design. In the case of Mafia Wars, the concept wasn't quite there. It was slightly primitive. The concept was based on the theme, which was basically the wars in Mafia, 30s, US, shotguns, violins, so forth, and technology. We had the isometric engine, and isometric was the view that approximates a three-dimensional view without being actual 3D. So, as a good point in the concept of having a great name and really catchy thing, war, the good thing about this is that we really knew where we are going. We will make something that, as the final poster shows, will have all the good and cool elements of Godfather and whatnot. But a bad point about concept that's just knowing that we'll be having some kind of war, especially since it's not developed further, is that it's too big, it's too vague. The Mafia Wars name implied great things, and eventually that's where we got some of our problems from. The second area of design, of the concept design, could be said to be gameplay design. And in Mafia Wars' case, gameplay design pretty much was piling cool features on top of each other and finding out if these features work. So you could say that after we knew that there would be some warring on the streets and we'll be looking at it from the up corner direction, there would be lots of questions. Well, what if there would be lots of henchmen following our hero? What if that group of mobsters would actually stumble upon some cops, and what if the cops would react to that, and what if the AI would start working in that sense, that the war would really break out on the streets, and what if there would be exploding objects, which in turn would destroy buildings? All of these things would actually have been possible to do even in the mobile space, but trying all of these out, finding why they are fun, why they are not, and can they actually work together, just simply took too much time. The third area of designers' tasks, as I could say it, would be content design. This is the most straightforward area. It's basically designing levels, designing scripting events, or even writing stories. In case of Mafia Wars, the screen you see there was the designer's tool. Unfortunately, designers are not programmers, and using pure scripting to create levels, which in case of Mafia Wars could have multiple houses, and up to 50 interactive objects, would take a lot of work. And the problem, of course, is that scripting is slow, and scripting is really prone to errors. So even though we did get the levels done, and the levels were playable, we could only see how they play eventually after the game has been started. Even though there was a graphical viewer as well, the graphical viewer only gave an approximation how the game would run. So going back and forth the scripting editor and seeing in game, well, did the guy actually hit the bottle he was supposed to hit, was immensely so. Even though all of these problems, even though these issues are problems from design point of view, the game actually turned out to be all right, or good, and a sequel is already being made as well, so we did learn a lot of things. The second case would be Pitfall, The Lost Expedition. This was a platformer game, and the license was from Activision. Sumea bought the license, and Sumea owns the game. So the only part where Activision came in was later on we had to go through their approval process with the game and with the marketing material. As a good point, we never had any problems with the actual game content. They were immensely happy with anything we showed. The team size was 5, and this game, instead of 8 months, took 2 months, where I'd say is a rather big difference. And let's see how the game turned out. The concept for Pitfall it wasn't an original idea like Mafia Wars was. This is like the second type of a concept, and it was a license. As you can see from the picture on the left, that's the original Pitfall from very early years, one of the first, if not the first, platforming games. So, and the picture on the right is a picture from the new 3D game, which was being developed by Activision simultaneously than we were doing the mobile version. We didn't exactly know how the full video game would be turning out, but so we were pretty much working on assumptions. Anyhow, we had the framework. We had the framework laid out pretty much within these ground rules. Of course, most of you, if you played games, you have probably know that all licensed games don't really have that good a reputation. And obviously, licensed games usually are business cases, and it's tempting for a publisher or for a developer to go with the easy route, do a quick and dirty job. But we saw the license as a chance to work smart. We only had 2 months to do the first of the Pitfall games. We decided, because a mobile game in 64 kilobytes just can't really have that much of different themes, we decided to split the game into 3. Develop the jungle part first, and then go onwards with the glacier and caves. Lots of different themes that we noticed that the full video game would be having. So anyhow, we thought that in these 2 months, we'd have the chance to do what we do best, do a complete mobile game. For gameplay design, the focused key features were essential. We didn't have time in this case to start wondering about what could actually happen in the game, and maybe we'll try to create something like in this direction and then this and so forth. No, we knew the game would have to be about exploration and adventure. And because we knew the game would also be a platformer game, the focus was on the main character. So all the game, all the features, how the gameplay, how the levels would work, they would be based on how the character was. And within very short time, if I remember correctly, probably 2 weeks or so, we got the character and his basic movements sorted out. So the character will be running, jumping, punching, climbing some mines, and having a special action. This was already decided as well that this one special action would be swapped between the different episodes. And in the jungle part, it would be swimming. Similarly, enemies, for example, we decided we'd be having around 5 slots per each episode, and between these 5 slots, we could quite fast decide there would be 1 walking enemy and 1 jumping enemy and so forth. So we made the groundwork really fast. This is how the game will be playing. There's a character, and the character has to do these things. With this in mind, we could also go to the content creation part of the game really fast. When we had the character jumping and running, within weeks, within days, we could start designing levels. And the view you see there is our level editor called the level editor that we use internally. And this has been used before the Pitfalls, though it wasn't in use in Mafia Wars, and it's still in use, and it's been evolving heavily. Already in this phase, I think this is early 2004, the level editor was a complete tool. So if you see on the left side, there will be a complete list of the levels. On the right side, lower corner, there will be the properties, which in this case means enemies and the enemies' capabilities and so forth, as well as the complete set of tiles. With this in mind, we were able to create the first drafts of the levels in almost no time. And the reason why the level editor actually is so strong and why it's so important to have the first drafts of the levels quickly is that levels only come good through iteration. So even though you can build a level in short time, and in case of Mafia Wars, you can script a level to be something. I've noticed in this project and several others that basically less than 10% of the original design content that I do for levels stay intact. So at least 90% of everything I did on the first week would have to be scrapped in the forthcoming 6 weeks. And basically, that's all for the quality. Someone could say that the first draft is good enough. Fair enough, you probably have a goal and an ending in the level, but that sure as hell ain't fun. Case number 3 of the Pitfall, which at the moment, yes, all the 3 episodes have been done for, is Fantasy Warrior 2 Good and Evil. That was a fantasy adventure split in two. We decided early on that we'd be developing simultaneously two parts for it. A good one where the adventurer travels by nighttime, and an evil one where a nasty vampire is traveling by nighttime. The core theme for Fantasy Warrior was 6. At this point already, our development practices had gone so far that we had separate people doing the ports. Ports being different versions for different phones. The development team creates few basic versions, and after this, these versions are further modified and applied to the hundreds of handsets that are around the world. The time taken for Fantasy Warrior 2 was around 5 months, and the trailer for this one is like this.
Now ruled by monsters. Heroes of Light and Dark. Fantasy Warrior 2, Good and Evil.
So, slight development from the first game, and the time between these projects is still less than a year. The concept design for Fantasy Warrior 2 was, you could say, the third case of design of concept principles. The Mafia Wars was an original idea. Pitfall was a license. Well, Fantasy Warrior was a sequel. As you might have noticed from the trailer, we have gone quite far in how the game looks, plays, and so forth. But inversely, whereas the Mafia Wars would have demanded lots of initial design, the concept for Fantasy Warrior 2 was kind of like laid out in the beginning. We're doing a sequel. It was supposed to be more of the same, but better. Even then, as can be seen from the pictures, the left one is from Fantasy Warrior 1 and the right one is from Fantasy Warrior 2. We did decide that it is a sequel, and in a similar way that major video games brands at the moment are actually usually having multiple sequels, we wanted to make the second one good enough to perhaps warrant even further sequels. So we wanted to design new mechanics that really work well on the mobile phone. New items, new enemies, lots of stuff. Have basically as epic mobile adventure as possible. The gameplay design. For Fantasy Warrior 2, we once again focused on what's really important. And in this game, well, it was once again the exploration. We wanted to have the big world, but it was combat. And this picture shows pretty much all that the main guy in the good one, Rento, actually will be doing in the combat. He's going to walk in 4 directions, and when he stumbles upon an enemy, he hits automatically. That seems awfully simple. We actually took away the diagonal directions that were still existing in Fantasy Warrior 1. But mobile phone controls are one of the issues that the designer has to keep always in mind. Mobile phones have the navigation button that has 4 directions and the number keys. But the number keys in certain buttons, in certain mobile phones, might be dispersed in immensely awkward places. So we can't really guarantee that the figure of 8 that you could get on a standard Nokia handset perhaps would apply to some other handsets. So we thought 4 directions actually is enough to make good combat. And we didn't even give separate button for the hitting, because other thing that mobile phones have as a weakness in controls is that you can't guarantee that a mobile phone handset actually registers 2 key button presses simultaneously. So while you're running and you want to jump, it might not work that way. You have to run, stop, wait for a bit for the handset to realize what you're trying to do, and then press jump. So we simplify that as well. And actually, having this basis as simple as this, and once again, something that we can test in really short time, enabled us to create lots of different enemies and special attacks and so forth to complement this. So I think we got depth from relatively simple and mobile-oriented design decision. The content design for Fantasy Warrior 2. It was the level, or the world was created once again with the level editor, and that was done rather fast, and we got really good results. But the picture you see here is about one of the problems we found throughout the development. That's the world of Fantasy Warrior Good in design phases. That's pretty much just like pixels showing pretty much where things should happen. But the small icons you see over the game world are where there should be dialogue, story, or events. And story or text as such, that's a bit of a problem for mobile phones. As I said earlier, there's different sized versions of a single game. So Fantasy Warrior 2 would also have to be squeezed into 64 kilobytes and used in the 200 kilo version. The trailer you saw obviously was from the fanciest possible version. The problem with squeezing text is that it's not really that easy to compress. With graphics, we can lose colors, we can lose frames from in between. With levels, with careful design, the players don't really notice that we took away a few of the fields in between. But with text, it is rather hard to read a sentence if every third letter is taken away from the words. So we have to start, so just this amount of events, and that the story kind of like required them, that posed us with a problem. And even in the finished game, with the hindsight, it probably would have been better that we would have designed something that works better on a mobile phone. In all of these places, we would require a character that says something. Please go there and save the princess. Thanks for saving me, yay. But it probably would have been better to design something that requires text as much, only in the beginning and the end of the game. In between, something else, like clear waypoints, would have been sufficient. So, all these three games have showed us how and why to do games. In summary, if I try to summarize this a bit, the three areas for all the three projects, the concept, the gameplay, and content, are things that actually require quite a bit of thought, even in mobile games. Fair enough, the games are smaller than the video games. We are not spending years to create something that has immense amount of depth, or let's say longitude. I'm sure that there will be mobile games that are truly playable, that will be something that you'd actually like to play on your phone. I'd wish for someone to actually design a game that's more important than the calls you'd be getting for your mobile phone, but I don't think that will be happening. Anyhow, about the concept, about designing a concept for a mobile phone. Mobile games are done pretty fast, so it's very important to nail it down early. Have a vision quickly. Prototyping is a great way to do this. Instead of saying, well, fair enough, in the end, we'll do something for 3 months, and yes, it'll be great, you know, you'll be having sword fights. No, as a basis for the whole game, make something small enough that works on the mobile phone that shows, yeah, the combat can actually be functional. As it was in case in Mafia Wars 2, several features that were in design in the from the beginning had to be dropped, because even though they would have been feasible, like even having these great masses of Mafia goons following your main guy, it wasn't really practical. For gameplay, that's something I really like to talk about, because I'm kind of like building myself a list of do's and don'ts of mobile game design. Do's at the moment are rather, you can find lots of do's with the best mobile games there are around. Well, we have good ones, but there are several other developers and publishers as well that do make good mobile games, games that are really fun to play on your mobile. They are quick to play or slow to play. They reward for playing. You wouldn't want to delete them from your mobile phone. Those are good games. They usually show a lot of thought for how the game should be played. If you're playing in the bus, for example, the game should obviously ask first, do you want to have audio or not? It's a default nowadays that the game asks when you start up the game, do you want the music to be on or off? Because nothing is more annoying than actually hearing someone, well, basically the same thing as if someone were trying out different dial tones. in a crowded bus. So, few things that the gameplay in mobile really has to look for are the controls. As I said earlier, the mobile phone. Mobile phones are not standardized for controls, as opposed to, let's say, PlayStation or Xbox, where you have the controller that will function always at the same time. You can design very, very nice and elaborate effects around the controllers. No, mobile phones, we can be pretty happy that we know that most likely every game will work with this four-way directional controller. That's about it. The small screen size, the changing screen sizes, that affect events as well. And that mobile phones are played in very different situations. They're not played in the living room usually, where the light might be low and you could rely on people really seeing what happens. People might be playing it and even on beach. So contrast and things like that has to be thought, even from the designing point of view. And difficulty is one of the last things that designer always have to think about in mobile games. Mobile games just can't be really that difficult. The controls, if you make a difficult platformer game or something, you can't be sure that the difficulty will be same for all the players around. Finally, tools or designing content. Tools are priceless, even if the game wouldn't have levels as such, or tracks like a racing game might have. Even if it would be a puzzle game, it would be important to create some kind of tools for the development team, not necessarily just the designer, but for the team, to test, to tweak and test the things that are important for the overall experience early on. So even in a game, even in a puzzle game, there should have to be something which people other than the programmer can look into. Would it actually make the game better? So, generally, these were the areas where I've learned a lot with the 3 games. I've seen a real evolution in mobile games in the last 2 years. The evolution is ongoing. Fantasy Warrior 2 was finished last year, so it's more than a year, I think, when it was done. And other projects have showed us other things, and in the future we'll be having games that fit the mobile phones even better. So in general, the designer for a mobile game has got quite a lot of responsibility. And in my case, in keeping these things in head all the time, I can try, in my part, to try to help the projects to actually end up as really fun games. Thanks a lot for being a great audience, and if there's any questions, shoot away. Yeah, a very good question. The question was about new technologies like cameras and what was the location finding on things that are coming to mobiles, are new things to mobiles, and how they will affect the games. Those 3 games obviously took their roots from the games I've been presenting, from the retro things, especially the Pitfall. And for example, in Japan, I think the latest Final Fantasy game for mobiles, in throwing spells, you would actually have to take a photo beforehand of certain color. Let's say you take a photo of apple. The game would process that red image into a fireball spell. So that's like one very interesting application of the image processing. And there are games already, even in the West, I think, that if you take a photo, there might be something overimposed on the photo. Let's say you take a photo of your friend, and there would be mosquitoes flying on the photo, and you have to actually swat them. So yes, the new technologies eventually, they will be forming the new kind of mobile game. Some that actually even more people would enjoy, because these retro games initially obviously apply or appeal only to people who have played the originals. Or even Fantasy Warrior, that was obviously reminds of Zelda. And you basically have to be a gamer to enjoy the concept. So, and location basing, that's a very interesting thing as well. Obviously it's got problems like in Europe, and you wouldn't really want to find too close to where someone is. But let's say a distance between 2 objects, that's something that I found really interesting. If you would only take the distance, you could create, let's say, a racing game where you just know that someone's this far from you. That's a data that actually would be pretty easy to find and implement into a game. Other questions? How many downloads for the games? Well, yeah, so the question was how many downloads do we get per games, and well, I actually don't know. We are, the company has grown quite a bit since the Mafia Wars when it was probably 15 people. Now it's even the Finnish side, the development and production side, that's probably like 80 people. So the download figures, I don't even know them. Frankly, I'm not even throwing really answers, guesses here. It's more than a few. It's more than a few. Finland is not perhaps the best place to see how mobile games actually hit through. We do have some advertisements in the tabloids, like download new ringtones and get the latest photo of that funny frog that's in the commercials. And on the side of all this, you might notice that download a game as well. But abroad, things have been evolving, and once again, obviously, in Far East, mobile games have been rather more prominent for quite a while now. So I wouldn't be surprised if the download numbers in future, I wouldn't be surprised if the download numbers would be thousands, 10 of thousands. Basically, as long as you have a mobile and it's very easy to download a game, why wouldn't you? Especially if your friend recommends, hey, try out this new card game. Any more questions? So the question was, how do we decide that for what mobile phones our games are actually ported? Well, basically, all the phones that are selling well, we want to get obviously our games to as many customers as possible. And I don't remember, unfortunately, the exact number of how many phones our games are being ported to, but the number is great. Any help? Yeah, over 100, that's probably what I said earlier. And those 100 or over 100, or, well, let's say over 100 phones, they are the ones that in our areas, let's say Europe and US, and perhaps even, well, Europe and US are popular. And obviously the game has to support Java platform because we are doing Java games. So there is not any real process of weeding out mobiles that we wouldn't do game for. Well, we wouldn't do a game for mobile that's got only black and white screen. We are not doing black and white games anymore, even though Sumia did start, if I remember correctly, years ago, by doing the games that at the point were the cutting edge technology. Well, variants of Snake and cousins of Snake. Any more? There's probably a few minutes left, but if not, I thank you all, and I hope you got out something from how it is to design mobile games and how mobile games are at the moment. Thanks a lot.